what can I learn from daily vlogging? Because I think there is so much value in bringing in your life and the people around you and the relatability of just like who you are and bringing that into the videos. But also like, what do I want to do? What am I passionate about? I'm passionate about technology and the creative process. So that's my title, that's my thumbnail, that's the content that I'm going to create. And then how can I maybe bring in aspects of vlogging into it? So I think that's how my content maybe like stands out a little bit.
And so here we had this dilemma, this fact.
I've spent almost a decade researching this subject.
Every aspect of your metabolic health improves.
From the Hint offices in San Francisco, I'm Sara Goldin, founder and CEO of Hint. You may have tried Hint water before, but this is my podcast. Each week, we talk to some of the most creative entrepreneurs, from world-touring pop stars like Jay Sean to the people behind favorite Instagram accounts, including So Yummy, New York City, and even YouTubers like Sara Dietschy. So the million-dollar question, what does it really take to be unstoppable? Let's find out. YouTuber Sara Dietschy is here with me today to talk about how she grew her YouTube following to over 30 million views. We dive into how she found her true passion through an unconventional route, why location matters, her thoughts on often being the only girl in the boys club, and so much more. The girl is the real deal. Now sit back and enjoy the show. I'm so excited today to have Sara Dietschy here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, totally. My favorite YouTuber and favorite influencer. And I've been on her podcast. And so now I had to bring her on or I should say, I didn't have to bring her on. I get to bring Sara Dietschy on.
Well, and it was such a good conversation that we had. So I'm like, yes,
totally.
Let's keep it going.
Yeah. Well, and you know, just to remind everybody in case you forgot somehow our interview, I mean, we really dove into kind of why I started Hint, and now I get to hear it all from Sara and hear sort of how she got started. But first, okay, so just a little bit of background on Sara. So in case you don't know Sara yet, and you definitely will soon, as of today, she has hundreds of thousands of subscribers, tens of thousands of followers on social media, and over 30 million views just on YouTube. Huge. She's worked with Hint before on multiple campaigns. She works with a lot of other major brands, which I want to talk about as well. So anyway, welcome, Sara.
Thank you
so
for
excited to have you on
me.
Unstoppable with Sara Goldin. So for the few people who haven't seen one of your videos, give us a quick story of who you are and also define the word vlog.
Ooh, okay. So we'll start with vlog. So traditionally it just means video blog, but now it has transformed into pretty much anything that you post on YouTube. So I think vlogging has really taken over YouTube so much. And even if I post like a 15-minute documentary film that I slaved over, people will comment and be like, oh, nice vlog.
That's awesome.
So I think it's kind of become synonymous with the platform YouTube. And so the type of content that I create is really based in tech and creativity. And so I started out making unboxings and reviews of the cameras I was getting when I started this journey of video. And so it really started there. And then I got more involved with the creative process. So I love designers, filmmakers, photographers, how they do what they do. I'm obsessed with it. So I'm always kind of sharing other people's process, whether it's through a docuseries or now my podcast. And I just love highlighting that because I think YouTube is a great place for, yes, entertainment and inspiration, but I think it's also a very powerful tool for education. And, you know, I don't think everyone has to go to film school. I don't think everyone has to go the traditional route. And if I could be a part in helping people to, you know, live their creative life and to get from point A to point B in the fastest, easiest way possible, then I want to be a part of that. So that's what I try to do on my channel.
I think it's so interesting. We just interviewed another great creative. He was talking about how when he got started, it was really about finding people who, you know, he didn't actually define it as this, but as we talked, I mean, he started to really identify it even more, that it was really searching out for those people that you were inspired by and that you thought were doing things maybe different than you. And I always believe like that's how you get better ultimately. And when you understand how somebody else thinks about things or what their process is or whatever. So it's super, super cool to hear that that's how the Sara Dietschy got started.
Well,
It
yeah,
wasn't about like, I'm so hot and cool and I've got it all together and now
Yeah.
I'm going to tell the world about what I've got. It's
Right.
really about
everything
the
has
search.
been exactly, and sharing the process along the way. I feel like I never arrive, so there's little goals along the way that I share. But I like what you said about how you can learn so much from maybe people who are like outside what you're doing. So a lot of what I did in the beginning is I was taking my inspirations from music. You know, I've played electric guitar for over 10 years. I was in a band. I was obsessed with music. But then I was like, oh, video, this is cool. And so when it came to video editing, I was really inspired by music and what people were doing maybe in like music videos, or how to match up, you know, like cool montages with the music. And then I was very inspired by like business professionals and entrepreneurs who were sharing their process as well. So in the beginning, I pulled inspiration from fields that definitely weren't like filmmaking. I think that really helped me along my journey.
I think it's really interesting too what you're talking about when you looked outside of the industry that you were in. I mean, I always talk about, so Hint started out as a beverage company, and I never looked at people. I looked at the problem that I was solving around, you know, clearly in the beverage industry, but I didn't like aspire to be those other companies, right? Like, and I looked at brands like Warby Parker and, you know,
Because if you try to be the same, you're not going to be successful.
No, exactly.
Successful.
And so I always talk about, you know, in sort of my journey in becoming, you know, the best I can possibly be. I've felt like I've gained more knowledge and, you know, impressions about sort of how to grow my businesses from companies outside of my industry. So I think that that's super, super cool. So you're living in New York now. You're not from New York. You're from Texas.
Dallas, Texas.
Dallas,
Yeah.
Texas. And of course, you know, your lovely mom, Jeannie, who is my Twitter buddy. And so you were in college, and where were you? In Texas?
Yes. So I went to college at UTA. It's a college outside of, in Arlington. So if you know where Dallas Cowboys Stadium is, that was in the backyard of my college. And so I went for electrical engineering because I loved math and science in high school. I was good at that. I hated writing. So basically English and history, not my thing. So I really dove into math and science. When it came to college, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I knew that I loved guitar, and I was really interested in, building pedals and amps and stuff. And I actually had a job at a electronics shop, like helping fix amps and like pianos and stuff. And so I was like, electrical engineering, let's do this. You know, maybe I can like make something to do with the guitar. And so I dove into electrical engineering. I got a scholarship. And that was the other reason I kind of fell into it, because at the time, if you had, you know, I graduated in the top 10%, I had a good ACT score, and I was a woman trying to get into an engineering degree. And so I got a scholarship. And I was like, okay, well, I can go to school for free. This is cool. Let's just go for it. Very soon did I realize how much I hated it. You know, I was like, I don't care about these transistors and conductors. I just care about the overall like product. So that's when I was like, okay, my love for music isn't going to keep me in an electrical engineering degree. And then I transferred to a computer science degree 2 years later. And I hated that too. And so I was in college for 3.5 years and going in between electrical engineering, computer science. And during that time, I was really searching for what I wanted to do. And I discovered that I didn't have the same passion to play music anymore. I wasn't going to be Taylor Swift's guitar player. I wasn't going to go on tour and be this famous guitar player. And so I was really getting into video at that time, and I was kind of posting random travel films to YouTube, and okay, I got a new camera, doing unboxing, and I started seeing a little bit of traction there. And so I just started doing more jobs. I kind of linked up with a production company in Nashville when I moved to Nashville for my last semester of college, and I was doing very boring, like talking head corporate videos for them to like try to pay rent in Nashville. And when push came to shove and I ran out of scholarship money and I was going to a private college in Nashville that cost $15,000 a semester, I kind of had to face reality. And I was on the phone with my mom, speaking of Jeannie, pretty much every day for 3 months, just being like, I can't do this. I hate what I'm doing. I would literally be in tears on the phone like so many times, just like, I hate this so much. And I truly believe if you are doing everything you can, you know, from maybe 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. to pursue something that you love when you're doing something that you hate, I think that's going to really help you figure out what you love. Because when you're doing something that you hate, you are going to try anything and everything to find something that you actually enjoy doing. So even though I was so miserable pursuing that and being in college, it really helped expedite, like, find my passion in life, and that's video, and that's just creativity. And so thanks for that, I guess, electrical engineering, but it was so miserable. And so because of that, I dropped out after 3.5 years. People are always like, oh, you only had 1 semester left, but I actually had 1.5 years left because I switched majors. But even then, still, people are like, you should just finish. Well, if I just finished, I would be $45,000 in debt, and I wouldn't have gotten the opportunity that I got called the Adobe Creative Residency, which allowed me to pursue my passion projects for an entire year. So
that's awesome. How did you hear about that?
So one big thing that I was doing a lot in college was just going, like, traveling and going to conferences. So I would find, and that's the other thing, so I didn't really sleep a lot in college because, you know, I was doing homework, but I was also working a ton. So I worked at the electronic shop. I, you know, was still doing babysitting and stuff, and I was doing weddings, filming weddings. And so every penny of money that I got would go into, you know, either video gear or travel. And so I would be going to a lot of these conferences because they would have discounts for college students. And so the Adobe Max conference is where I learned about it. And basically, it's a very expensive conference, but the college student ticket is only $300. And I knew that they give out really like sick swag every year. So the year before, they gave out a Microsoft Studio. And I was like, I'll just sell what I get at the conference and I'll pay off my ticket and my plane ticket. So I stayed with a friend in LA, went to that conference. They gave out like this $1,000 camera, and I sold it on eBay, and like that trip was free, you know, easy. But the first session that I went to was about book publishing, which sounds super random, but I was like, you know, one day I kind of want to make a coffee table book. So I'm not here to learn about video. I know about video. So I went to a lot of classes about things outside of my thing. And so the first 5 minutes, this girl, Becky, who was giving the class, basically was like, hey, I'm Becky. I have this thing called the Adobe Creative Residency. She kind of told the people a little about it, and then moved on to, this is how you publish a book. So the moment she talked about that residency, I was like, this is my ticket out of college. Like, my brain just started going. She talked a little bit about herself. She's from Austin. I'm like, okay, this is how I'm going to start a conversation with her. I'm from Texas too. And so I did learn a lot about book publishing, but during that time I was like, I'm going to get this. I need to like connect with her. How do I do this? And so after the session, there was kind of a line of people. I waited to talk to her, and I was basically like, hey, I'm Sarah. I'm from Texas too. We kind of bonded on the Texas thing. I gave her my card, and I had an ask too. I was like, hey, I do this docuseries called Creative Spaces TV, where I go into creators' studios or homes, and I show how they do, where they do it, and, you know, share the process. I would love to have you on my show.
Yes, I was just going to say that would be an awesome one.
Yeah, and so we did ultimately, but that was just the domino effect for this residency. So I gave her my card, and later that night she connected me with the Adobe community manager, who actually had a video job that she needed in Nashville, Tennessee. I linked up with her. I did a recap video for Adobe Creative Jam in Nashville, Tennessee that just happened to be going on that next week. That night at the Creative Jam, I hung out with like 4 Adobe employees until like 1 a.m. in the morning. We just bonded, had the best time ever. And so I started this relationship with Adobe, and they knew my name, they knew who I was, and I was just full on from that point.
I love how you just showed up.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's what it really like.
And the job was, the recap video that I was making for them was so much work for $400. And I was like, y'all are Adobe. Seriously,
Yeah.
you're going to pay me for it? But it's understanding the value of opportunities. I really bonded with all the Adobe employees there. They knew who I was. And then when the opportunity came around of like, oh, Adobe Creative Residency, they knew who I was.
Yeah. But I think it's like, people always say too that I've heard this conversation around like, do I not do something because it's not enough money or whatever? But I think it really, like, what you just highlighted is, especially if you're just learning, right? Mm-hmm. And if it's a partnership or relationship that you really believe you're going to learn something. I mean, you and I were talking briefly before that I'm out speaking a ton right now, and I always, talk about how, when I go to these conferences today, a lot of them are paying me to come and talk about entrepreneurism and sort of how I got started. But then, a bunch of them are just where I feel like I want to get to meet this community too. And so I think that you have to start to make these decisions for yourself around,
Yeah. And it's, what do you want?
If it's just about the money, then it's probably like if every one of your decisions are just about the money, then I think that that's probably not like, that's not going to be fun for very long, right?
And I think people would be surprised how relationally driven the creative community is. And when it comes to working with companies and seeking out opportunities, talent is important, yes. And standing out and being different is important, yes. But if you do not have your foot in the door in some way, it's going to be much harder to get those things. And so even, and I'm not like the daughter of some, like crazy creative people. My mom and dad are like from Dallas, Texas. We live in a suburb, like had very normal jobs. They're not creative at all in the traditional sense of art. But from a very young age, I just started being there and showing up and doing and not asking for something in return because I knew that would come later.
So early on, you made a vlog and talking about vlogs, and I think you know which one I'm talking about. And the godfather of vlogging on YouTube, calling out your work as amazing, endorsing your channel. How did that change your life?
Yeah.
And tell the audience a little bit if they haven't seen sort of that in particular.
Yeah, so godfather of vlogging, Casey Neistat. So I had watched his stuff pre-vlog. So he was on YouTube, I think starting in like 2011. And I actually found his channel through a Gizmodo studio tour. And so I'm always really into creative spaces, and that's why I started my series Creative Space TV. And so when Gizmodo posted this video of just like this insane New York City studio with everything, like every filmmaking tool you would ever need, just like carefully placed, I was like, who is this dude? And so it was Casey Neistat, and I discovered his channel around 2012, and I just kind of became like so amazed by his style of things. And so I had been following his channel since he was at like 100,000 subscribers, and then he started vlogging. I was like, oh, okay, vlogging, it's this thing. I knew what it was, but it really hadn't been defined at that moment. I was very used to making just like crazy travel montage films at the time, or like camera unboxings. And so he kind of came in and really solidified this genre that is vlogging. Like, okay, now he's putting music and time lapses and telling a story every single day, putting out a video every single day, which is crazy. And it very, very much so became like his thing, and his style became so obvious. Like, I think that's what he did very well, is he had a formula and he did it every single day.
It's predictable.
Exactly. Yeah. And the format was predictable, but what he was doing was like crazy, whether it was like riding helicopters or just, it was insane. Yeah, it was crazy. And so I loved it. And because his style was so predictable, there were a lot of things in it that you could pick out and kind of like tease about.
Yeah.
And so I made a parody video of his vlogs, and at the time he had like 1.5 million subscribers. Now he has 9 million subscribers. And I posted that video. I was still living at Nashville at the time, and it went like crazy viral. He shouted out my video and his the next day for like the first half of the video. And during that time, it wasn't just that video that was on my channel, but I had a really big backlog of content. So starting in 2015, I was like, I'm taking this seriously. I'm posting consistently.
And what was consistently for you back then?
Like once a week.
Okay.
So I was still in college. I was still hating my life. So I had to figure out something that fit my schedule. So it was travel films, it was docu-series, I had Creative Space TV going, a lot of cool interviews with people. And so he saw that and he basically was like, Sarah's everything that is like good about YouTube and blah, blah. So being there,
That's
hearing
amazing.
that,
Yeah.
from like your hero, I was
Totally.
like, this is insane. So basically I went from 3,500 subscribers to like 90,000 to eventually 100,000 subscribers in the span of a couple months because of that video. So it's crazy.
That's so crazy. And then Casey, I mean, is he a mentor to you? Like, I know you guys have become friends and...
Yeah, so it was crazy because during the time that I posted that video and it started going viral, I actually got the Adobe Creative Residency right before that. So on my final interview in San Francisco, it was such a crazy, like, it was so crazy. So I was going through the interview process for the residency, which Adobe pays for your passion projects for a year. I was going through that process and like being so heads down. At that time I was posting like 2 videos a week. I'm like, the residency, I have to get this. I have to prove my worth. And when I was like heading to San Francisco for the final interviews, that's when the video went viral. So everything was like happening at the same exact time. It was insane. And so at the same time that I got this big audience from Casey, I then had the means to just go full force for a year because I got the residency. And that year was a really cool opportunity. I was traveling, I was like speaking at conferences, helping at conferences. So Casey and I were crossing paths a lot. So, you know, we were at the same conferences, we were hanging out a little bit. And that's kind of how you have to hang out with Casey. You have to meet him where he is, you know? So I was able throughout that year to kind of just, you know, have him in a couple videos here and there. And then the residency allowed me to move to New York. And I have an office in the same building that he's in at 368, which is really cool. So he's like the busiest dude in the world. So I don't think I could say he's my mentor, but he's definitely someone who did so much for me, you know? And so the little passing moments are a lot of fun. And it's cool that I'm just kind of in his same vicinity. But yeah, he's a busy dude.
Yeah.
You know, he's a very busy dude.
That's awesome. So, but your channel, like just from, you know, really being introduced by somebody who had, you know, been doing something great on YouTube, did you feel like that? I mean, obviously
Pressure.
that helped you grow your audience, but like, so what happened after that? I mean, you said you got to 100,000 and then...
So after that was a lot of just figuring out who I was on YouTube.
And how did you do that? Like, how did you figure out what type of content? Yeah.
Failing so hard. So in the beginning, it was very much so, you know, like 3,000 subscriber Sarah was very much so, I'm going to do what I want to do.
That's what you call,
you know?
3,000 subscriber Sarah.
Exactly.
I love it.
And so during that time, it was very much so like unboxing new tech, talking about it, like a little bit of educational stuff, travel videos, and then also like doing these documentary series that I wanted to. So at no point was I vlogging. Like there was no vlogging involved. And then when the vlogging king himself shouts you out, and the only advice that he gives you is quantity, put more out. It's like, okay, I need to put out so much stuff. I need to put out content like every single day. So I started vlogging like five times a week, and it killed me. And it was so not for me, but I think I had to try it just to see that it did push me in ways that things have never pushed me before, but it did show me what I could do and what I wanted to do. And so I daily vlogged, posting like 5 videos a week, every single week. I did that I did it on and off for almost a year. And I had this moment on YouTube in the past year where I kind of just admitted to my audience and admitted to myself that like, I don't like daily vlogging. Yeah. I don't like, this is not me. This isn't how I started. And just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean that I have to do it. And so I kind of scaled back and I kind of went back to my roots. You know, I was like, what can I learn from daily vlogging? Because I think there is so much value in bringing in your life and the people around you and the relatability of just like who you are and bringing that into the videos. But also like, what do I want to do? What am I passionate about? I'm passionate about technology and the creative process, and how can I start there? Okay, so that's my title, that's my thumbnail, that's the content that I'm going to create. And then how can I maybe bring in aspects of vlogging into it? So I think that's how my content maybe like stands out a little bit in the tech community, is if I'm reviewing a new phone or a new camera, I'm not just sitting in an office talking about it, but I'm out and about and I'm doing it. And I'm doing it in more of a vlog style than just like a sit down style. So I am bringing a lot of what I learned from that year into my videos now, but I'm very much so in a happier place where I'm posting, 2 to 3 videos a week. I'm sleeping. It's good, you know, it's good,
you're
but
happy with it.
Exactly. It took me a while to get there.
Yeah. And you're also slicing and dicing parts of like your videos too, which I think is just a whole other aspect of, what I think maybe some people haven't really thought about, that they think that it needs to be like perfect, right? And like the entire thing. But I think, between teasers and other aspects of the content, I think that there's a lot that you can play around with as well to sort of look like you have a lot more content. So you're living in New York now. What advice would you give to, people who are vlogging or just creators in general about where they need to be?
I think so the internet is this amazing thing that I think has really leveled the playing field of you can do anything anywhere. I think location can make you unique. But if where you are in the world isn't the thing that's making you unique, I think it does matter being in the spots where people are creating and where they're doing stuff. So, you have the classic LA and New York, but there's also so many cool spots across the states and worldwide. You have Nashville that is just blowing up right now.
Yeah.
But I lived in Nashville for 9 months and I left as soon as I could because I realized I didn't want to direct music videos.
Yeah.
And so I think it really does matter where you are. And here in New York, it's so different in LA because LA is very YouTube driven, and that's great. And so that's why LA was on my mind for a while. I was like, do I need to be in LA? But I'm not just a YouTuber. You just had Germ on here, who's an amazing photographer. He's a good example, who is someone who I've just like grown to love his work, and he's an amazing human. And there's so many people here in New York City that are so much more than just like a YouTube channel. And it's an amazing creative community, and there's startups here, there's well-established business here. And so it's like this beautiful blend of just like everything that I want to be in the center of, which I have just been obsessed with being here.
And people you can learn from too, right?
Exactly. And, there's been a lot of instances where I've just been in rooms with people, with CEOs and photographers, filmmakers, that if I can just sit in like a 20-minute conversation, like my mind is blown. And the fact that, I live a few blocks away from VaynerMedia. And so whenever I get that email of like, oh, okay, Gary can do a podcast, but it can only be at this time. And so I have to like hurry it up and pop over. Like that matters, and that's huge. And there's so many, that's the reason, if you want to specifically talk about New York, that's the reason also why I chose to live in Manhattan, is so many opportunities have happened in like the split second of just being where I am that have accounted to so many things. And so I think location does matter, but
plus New York is super fun.
It's so fun. It's so fun, right? I like over here like, oh, business. But yeah, it's so fun. Talking about Casey Neistat, he's the one who really made electric skateboards a thing in the city. And so the fact that I can get anywhere I need to be on a booster board, on an electric skateboard in like 10 minutes, that's so fun. The fact that Manhattan is so small, New York is so small, and you can get anywhere you need to be on the subway or an electric skateboard, like that's so cool.
So, I was just thinking about something as you were talking. So many industries today, we're talking about women, and that definitely it's like there's an obvious tilt in terms of like, men having more influence in these industries. I feel like this is an industry where, there's women like you, there's, you can probably name some others, but do you feel like being a woman in this industry that there's like an obvious tilt towards like men get more of the opportunities, or do you feel?
So it's kind of difficult for me to talk about this fairly because I am a woman who traditionally has been into more dude stuff, you know, more like dude areas. When I was 5 years old, I told my mom, I was like, Mommy, these girls suck. I don't want to play softball. I want to play boys baseball. Like, I was playing boys baseball from the age of like 5 to 8.
That's awesome.
And so it was never, and that's what's so cool about, you know, Jeannie is along the way, whether it was sports, whether it was like music or just like technology, nothing was ever like, oh, you can't play with the boys. That's a boys thing. You know, I was always on the football, like playing tackle football with the boys. And so it's never been, it's weird because I think like the whole boys club is definitely a thing, but it's very hard for me to comment about it from an outside perspective when traditionally I've been a lot of the times the only girl in that boys club. So I think the bigger issue is like not categorizing things is just like, oh, like dude things or girl things, you know? And that's what luckily, hopefully I can have an influence on, being this chick who's into cameras and gear and like all these things. It's like, you guys can be in, you know, ladies, let's take over and be in it too. And like,
Well, you're doing it.
yeah, thank you. And so that's kind of hopefully how I can play a part, is because I have been into those things. So it's very easy for me to kind of like wiggle my way in and, you know, be like, hey, all these tech dudes, let's collaborate, let's do it. And I found myself in a space where so many people are so supportive. I think specifically the tech YouTube community, it's a big sausage fest. It is. But I have seen like, and many times there's no reason for them to collaborate with like a 300,000 subscriber YouTuber. But I've seen them like see something in me, like you're talented and you're also like, you're a chick. It would probably also be cool to get some more ladies going in this sphere of YouTube. So it's been cool to see the community just being like very receptive of me when traditionally it is a more dude driven thing. So yeah, I think the thing is just like hopefully encouraging and just showing women that like, hey, we can do this stuff. And like just representing that. So
yeah, well, I think, you know, women are super creative, right? And there's no reason why they can't. I've just been very curious about it because I feel like it's an industry that is, you know, only started really in, you know, the last, really in the last few years, but I would even say 6 years.
Right.
I mean, is that, you know, right? And so I think that it's not, you know, it's really, it's a little bit the wild, wild west as to who can be successful and, you know, what kind of educational backgrounds do you need to have and, you know, where do you come from, right? And like,
that's what's so cool about the internet is it can be everywhere.
Totally.
And so when it comes to representation and things like that, the audience is there. You're not just catering to maybe like a specific TV network in the United States where it's like, oh, we're, you know, aiming for this demographic, but like your demographic is the world, which is so cool because that means that, oh my gosh, I can, you know, maybe I'm a person that I don't look like anyone else in like in the suburbs of South Carolina, but I can go on the internet and find this community there. And so that's what I think is so cool about the internet is just like the democratization of attention, and it just allows you the opportunities that weren't there before. So, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. And you're totally doing it. So very, very cool. Well, thank you, Sara.
Yes.
So excited that you came to join us.
Thank you for having me.
I think that this is a really telling podcast that especially I hope to really inspire people to, you know, not only learn from you, but also to, you know, really show people that you can just go do it.
Yeah.
And you can be from
like, why not?
Texas or
Exactly.
Arizona or, you know, and just go out there and just get shit done.
I love it.
I love it. Thanks so much.
Yes, thanks for having me on.
You can learn more about Sara Dietschy and see the awesome content she's creating on her YouTube channel at youtube.com/Sara Dietschy. That's SARADIETSCHY. I love giving away things that are dear to my heart, like Hint Water. So for the next 3 months, I'll be choosing 5 lucky listeners each episode to win a year's supply. To enter, all you have to do is go to karagoldin.com/iTunes and leave a review. That's it. And if I see you tweeting it out and tagging me at Kara Goldin, you will increase your chances of being picked. And as a special thank you to all of our Unstoppable subscribers, for a limited time only, you can enjoy a special hint offer at drinkhint.com/unstoppable. If you like what you heard, please help spread the word and leave us a review. You can also follow along with me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Kara Goldin. Do you have a question for me or want to nominate an innovator to spotlight? Please talk to me at Kara Goldin on Twitter. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, be unstoppable.